Having Parker Schnabel on Gold Rush has been a lot of fun. Despite the fact that many people enjoyed having Parker around behind the scenes, he was reportedly up to no good. What did Parker Schnabel do that nearly caused him to be despised? We will demonstrate today why we were advised not to trust Parker Schnabel and his connection to Gold Rush. These behind-the-scenes facts will surprise you. Continue to watch Gold Rush. Hey, you're operational for the first time this year. There were many misconceptions regarding the TV show's name before Parker Schnabel discussed Gold Rush. Following extensive research, it was discovered that the confusion started during the first season, when the program was known as Gold Rush Alaska. This led to a great deal of trouble, but everything worked out. Before discussing Schnabel's role on TV, let's take a long drive into the show. How did Gold Rush start and gain popularity? Discovery and its international channels broadcast the American reality TV program Gold Rush. The television program examines the placer gold mining operations of a number of family-run mining companies, initially in Alaska and primarily in Dawson City, Yukon, Canada's Klondike neighborhood. At first, there were questions about whether the show would be successful. The show's success surprised everyone and resulted in additional seasons. Some seasons focused on the struggles and work of miners in Colorado, Oregon, and Guyana, among other locations. By 2024, the program had aired for 15 seasons. Let's study those seasons in more detail. The show's name, Gold Rush Alaska, caused issues in the first season. In that season, 6 men were featured. They were all from Sandy, a small town 30 miles southeast of Portland, Oregon. They discussed their digging difficulties with the audience. Unfortunately, when the economy faltered, their situation deteriorated. Many of them were laid off. It was painful to observe. They then made the bold decision to travel to Porcupine, Alaska, in search of gold. They had to learn as they went because many of them had never done placer gold mining before. They benefited greatly from it. Many claim that the first season wasn't the most enjoyable or the best. A crew with no idea what they were doing and broken tools destroyed it. Initially, the crew had intended to strip mine an area close to Porcupine Creek, but their plans were altered. In order for Jack Hoffman to search for an ancient waterfall that he believed might contain numerous gold nuggets, it was slowed down. Additionally, claim owner Earl Foster dispatched seasoned miner Dakota Fred to try to improve the site's performance around the middle of the season. The team struggled to establish a rhythm and pay their expenses, despite some outstanding performances in the latter part of the season. By the end of the season, the Hoffman crew had discovered 14 gold, 64 troy ounces. Things became more interesting as the TV show continued after the first season concluded. Why? Before being renamed Gold Rush, it was known as Gold Rush. Dakota Fred Hurt purchased the claim from Earl Foster, the owner of Porcupine Creek, after Todd failed to pay rent in the second season. Since he was exempt from keeping the lease due to the late payment, he took this action. The Hoffman crew's new mine at Quartz Creek in Dawson City, Yukon, Canada's Klondike region, is the focus of the season. It also examines Parker Schnabel's efforts to mine his grandfather's property at Big Nugget Mine and Dakota Fred's operation at Porcupine Creek, the location of the original Hoffman mine. Dakota Fred later concentrated his efforts at Porcupine Creek on expanding the original Hoffman mine. He removed all of Hoffman's original equipment at the beginning of the season and installed a drocker, a different kind of mining setup. The Hoffmans did this in order to process dirt faster than they had previously. Many viewers expressed interest in the second season and high expectations for more. Yes, their wish was granted, and the show's third season debuted. Its third season premiered in October 2012. Hoffman's team returned to the Klondike during the season to mine at the Quartz Creek location once more. Additionally, they hired additional personnel to work concurrently at another nearby location. It was an excellent plan, but Hoffman was struggling at the moment. Due to equipment issues and delays at Hoffman's site, they decided to work with Dave Turin's crew at Indian River. In the same season, Dakota Fred Hurt and his team returned to the Porcupine Creek site, and Parker Schnabel returned to the Big Nugget Mine site with larger and better tools. The 803 ounces of gold that the Turin team discovered were worth more than $28 million. Remarkably, this was just 3 ounces more than what Dave Turin promised to return when the senior producer asked during the Season 2 after show, and more. Additionally, it was noted that Dakota Fred mined 163 ounces and Parker mined 192 ounces. They were all valued at over $250,000 USD. Compared to the first season, when no team discovered more than 50 ounces of gold, this was a significant improvement. After the third season concluded, they decided to create a fourth. In August 2013, The Dirt, a practice show, was the first episode of the 4th season. The season included interviews with every team from Season 3. Gold Rush Guyana, South America was the title of the 3rd season of the show. For this, the Hoffman crew traveled to South America. In Dawson City, Park Schnabel and his tutor Tony Beats rented new land at Scribner Creek. Dakota Fred, Hurt, and his son Dustin mined at Cahoon Creek. It was difficult to reach at the end of the last ice age and was only excavated in the late 1980s using pickaxes. According to reports, the actual 4th season began on October 25, 2013. Only roughly 2 ounces of gold and a few diamonds totaling $1,350 were given to the Hoffman team. They were forced to abandon their mining operations in Guyana. By the end of the season, Parker and his team had extracted 836 ounces of gold, and the Dakota boys had also extracted $280 worth. During that period, Parker continued to work with Rick and remained on the show. His season total now stands at 1029 ounces after he caught an additional 193 ounces. Parker then pulled $4 million. This was an enormous achievement in his records. The haul broke Todd Hoffman's single-season record of 803 ounces. Additionally, it exceeded Hoffman's total for each of the 4 seasons. The first episode of Season 5, which debuted at 9 p.m. on Friday, October 17, 2014, was released earlier than anyone had anticipated. However, The Dirt aired on the Discovery Channel earlier that day at 8 p.m. By the end of Season 5, Park had excavated 2,538 ounces, valued at just under $3 million. The 1,349 ounces of gold that the Hoffmans unearthed were worth slightly more than $1. $6,000. The show gained popularity by the 5th season and influenced other television programs. They continued as a result, and Season 6 got underway. The Dirt debuted on the Discovery Channel on October 16, 2015, marking the start of the U.S. premiere. During this time, it was released in the UK on October 20, 2015. By season's end, Tony's digger had removed 737 ounces. In addition, Parker managed to unearth 3,372 ounces of gold, or nearly $3. 5. The Hoffmans received 3.032 ounces, or slightly over $3 million out of $5 million. After Season 6 concluded, Season 7 of the show began. In 2016, the 7th season debuted on October 14th. By the conclusion of Season 7, Todd's mining venture in Oregon had failed. He broke even with just over 100 ounces at a Colorado Fairplay mine at the end of the summer. In contrast, Tony Beats and his family used a used gold mining machine to end the season with just over 2,100 ounces. In the end, Parker Schnabel and his group received just over 4,300 ounces, valued at over $5 million. On October 13, 2017, after a long wait, Season 8 premiered. The Hoffman and Parker teams wagered on which company would mine the most gold throughout the season, each wagering 100 ounces of gold. Both were aiming for a season goal of 5,000 ounces. Meanwhile, another old dredge was disassembled, moved, and reassembled by Tony Beats. This revived a placer mining technique that Dawson City had not employed for half a century. The Hoffman family's final season on the show would be Season 8, according to Gold Rush Live. By the end of the season, they had extracted 1,644 ounces of gold in Colorado, valued at just under $2 million. In the Yukon, Parker's team extracted 6,280 ounces of gold, valued at $5 million. Tony Beats also won with 3,059 ounces at Eureka Creek. It had a $4 value, $39 million. After Season 8 was a huge success with viewers, they continued to air the show. On October 11, 2018, the 9th season premiered with the episode The Story So Far. This season saw the release of numerous shows, all of which focused on Rick Ness's mining adventures. Rick was working alone in the shows. Tony Beats and his family, along with Parker Schnabel and his team, were all occupied with carrying out their respective tasks as effectively and individually as possible. The final episode of the 20-episode season was scheduled to premiere in March 2019. Parker's crew exceeded his target of 7,000 ounces by mining 7,427 ounces at Scribner Creek, 25 ounces. It had a nearly $9 million value. That season, Rick Ness dug 1,115 ounces, valued at $3 million, and they exceeded his 1,000 season target. Tony Beats fell short of his target of 6,000 ounces, obtaining just under 4,400 ounces. After Season 9 concluded, Season 10 got underway. The Klondike mining teams of Parker Schnabel, Tony Beats, and Rick Ness were the main focus of Season 10, which premiered on October 11, 2019. The 21st and final show of the season aired on March 6, 2020. Parker. Schnabel earned over $1 million from the 7,223 ounces he mined during the season, but he fell 204 ounces short of the record he set the year before. Because he mined his land primarily and paid far fewer fees, he made more than he did in Season 9. Additionally, because gold was so costly, Parker's haul was only worth $10. $8 million. Rick Ness had a rough year last year when he moved his company to Duncan Creek in the hills above Keno City. Additionally, Parker encountered ice and was unable to locate any gold-rich areas to feed Monster Red, his wash plant. At the beginning of the season, he purchased the Monster Red with $500,000. Rick weighed 547 ounces at the end, which is about the same weight. When Tony Beats' water lease expired, he was forced to relocate his company from Eureka and the Indian River region. Even after relocating to Paradise Hill, he was still unable to mine 2,259 ounces at the end of the season. Season 11 took a lot of effort to produce. However, the 2020 mining season was difficult to film and mine due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The film teams were not involved in the Yukon government's decision to consider miners as valuable workers. The Raw TV production company's crews were still stranded in Britain at the beginning of the shooting season due to a travel ban in Canada. Monica Beats had taken on additional filming duties, and initially there was just one member of the film crew on location with the Beats. Neither Parker nor Ness had any teams on the ground at the beginning of the mining season. At home, primarily in the United States, they had been under quarantine. After crossing the border from Alaska to Canada, Parker Schnabel spent 2 weeks alone in Whitehorse, Yukon. He took this action in order to begin the new mining season. The Beats closed their mine site for 2 weeks and intended to do so for the duration of the season. Following a 2-week quarantine, 4 members of a local film crew arrived to film the Beats. Rick Ness was confined and unable to communicate with anyone as he drove from Wisconsin to the Yukon with his truck's fuel tank extended. Fred Lewis, a new team member who serves as a military medic, took the lead on this. October 23, 2020, marked the start of the 11th season. The show became increasingly better as each new season was released, eventually becoming one of the greatest ever. Let's now examine public perceptions of the television program. Records show that Gold Rush was the most popular Friday night show among men in the United States when its first season finale aired. The primary age groups that watched it were women aged 25 to 54 and men aged 18 to 49. For 13 consecutive weeks during its second season, Gold Rush had the highest Friday rating among men between the ages of 18 and 49. In terms of important male groups, the Discovery Channel had a fantastic first quarter, with Gold Rush being the most watched program. A strong hold on the most popular unscripted television programs was one instance of this, from December 28, 2015 to March 27, 2016. Discovery Channel had the highest ratings among non-sports cable networks for men between the ages of 25 and 54. Additionally, it claimed 8 of the 10 most popular reality shows in this category, including the top 3, Alaskan Bush People, Fast and Loud, and Gold Rush. The lists of other cable reality shows with a male focus were also dominated by Discovery Channel. The show was attended by 5 of the top 10 shows for younger men aged 18 to 34, and 7 of the top 10 shows for men aged 18 to 49. Both of these groups were won by Gold Rush. Gold Rush is discussed by Parker Schnabel, but this show is incredibly popular right now, isn't it? Regards, Jez. At any rate, one of the most beloved characters on the show is Parker Schnabel. When no one anticipated it, Parker talked extensively about the mining job, which many had claimed could have had a disastrous impact on the show. Let's examine his remarks that nearly destroyed the show's title. At one point, Parker decided to share some juicy details about the show and his life with everyone. It was his turn to be interviewed after people asked to speak with him. He discussed what it's like to be a profitable gold digger with the news outlet. He claimed he couldn't think of anything when asked about his greatest spending binge with his millions. His words, "I haven't really splurged." Parker added that his ability to unite people and collaborate with them without any issues was his greatest accomplishment. "I don't even own a house except for the one on the mine site, so it's quite the opposite. I'm living on a friend's couch right now in LA. I'm not living here, I'm just staying here for a few weeks. I don't really spend much money on physical things or things like that. Someone who lives on experiences," he stated. This implied that he spends the majority of his large purchases with his loved ones. "Some really great things have happened to me," he stated. "I took my dad to a World Series game on Friday. For me, that kind of thing is a luxury. Spending money on a trip with friends is my only option. Every year I make an effort to take the mining crew on an enjoyable excursion. We went hunting one year and spent 3 days in Vegas the following year. I probably spend the most money on wonderful experiences that I enjoy sharing with others. Of course, I'm a big spender at work," he laughed. On the show, Parker was frequently deprived of his credit card. Parker's love and concern for his family was evident. At last, he expressed how important family is to him. He added that his success was largely due to his family. As he mentioned, they made him observe their hard work as a child in order to teach him the value of hard work. "I grew up in a family where my great-grandpa came to Alaska. My grandma joined him in 1937. My dad was born up here and all 3 of them were carving a life from scratch," he explained. The way he spoke about his father made everyone realize how much he loved and respected him. "That's how I grew up. My dad is a big part of my life. He's 69 years old, but he still gets up and goes to work at 4:30 every morning." During the interview, Parker also discussed his favorite memories from his early years. The year before he was on Gold Rush, he spent the summer at the mine site with his grandfather. The recollection was that he cooked dinner for me every night. Every night we would sit down, and he had an unreal memory. So, over the course of 3 months, he just gave me a complete history from the first memory he could remember to the present day. Sometimes it was a year or 2 years in one night, and sometimes it would take a week to get through a couple of days. He described it as a wonderful experience. Unfortunately, it was only verbal. It is not mentioned at all. That's probably one of the things I wish I hadn't done. It was a really special time when we became close. Parker never lost sight of his family despite the recognition and attention he received over the years. He loved and cared for them. During the conversation, Parker brought up the troublesome Gold Rush. He said there were risks associated with his work on the show. However, when he claimed that the job was making his life difficult both on and off the mine site, things became very heated. The show's 15th season was about to premiere when he did the interview, and his remarks might have jeopardized the show's coherence. Parker continued to discuss how the show transformed his life, expressing that he was not offended. Before turning 30, Parker had been on TV as a gold miner for half of his life. He made a joke about how he still finds it difficult to explain his work to those who are unfamiliar with it. "I try to explain it in a way that doesn't sound like Mad Max," he stated. "It's difficult to meet people who live in the woods and wash rocks to find small, shiny rocks. It's challenging to describe this without giving the impression that you live in a crazy, dystopian world." However, these were Parker's issues. "They ask me, 'What do you do?' And I say, 'I don't know how to explain it.'" His romantic life was in jeopardy. Additionally, he claimed that his work was the most significant aspect of his life, which hinders his ability to form relationships. He expressed his desire to start a family of his own someday. "I do hope to have a family and a life outside of TV eventually," he stated to me. "I do have a life outside of TV, but the show will end completely, I think, before I have kids, I would suspect." Things became heated when Parker declared that he would never pass on the heritage to his offspring. His words made it abundantly evident that he would not gladly recommend the mining position to anyone. He learned everything he knew about digging from his grandfather, but he wasn't prepared to repeat the same action. "I believe that is 100 years old," he replied. "One of the best things about my childhood is that my parents never pushed me in any direction. My dad ran a construction company, and there was never any pressure for me to be a part of what you might call the family business. My grandfather ran a hobby gold mine where they found 100 ounces of gold every year. For 20 years, it lost money. Since he only wanted me to be happy, which is what I believe is best for a child, my dad never voiced his displeasure that the business I ran as a teenager wasn't profitable." Schnabel, who is currently in his 30s, says he is excited for the next phase of his life, even though he is unsure of where he will be in a few years. "It won't be one where I think, 'Oh, my glory days are over,'" he clarified. "My dad and I recently launched another business, and he's 69. He's having the time of his life. Age is just a number, I think, because my grandfather didn't begin gold mining until he was 65 or so." That's all. As the show was coming to a slow end, a lot of things happened that affected Parker as well. According to reports, The miners were under a lot of pressure at the end of the season because they hadn't yet reached their goals. For Parker Schnabel, the situation was extremely difficult because at the time, his claim regarding Dominion Creek wasn't even close to what he had anticipated. Later, on March 14th, in an episode of the popular Discovery show, things got so bad for him that he sold some of his equipment to Brian McCauley. Brain assumed he might be having financial difficulties when he began selling things, and he was certain of this when he found it so easy to get the normally tough negotiator to lower the price. Meanwhile, Rick Ness and his team have been working for a month on their big risk to remove extra load at Vegas Valley. With their nearly $1 million in winnings, they hope to double their money with a $2 million prize. There was no gold coming in, and Rick wasn't sure if he could mine next year. He hoped that the risk would pay off big. Kevin Beats had to deal with his race against the clock at the same time. During this, Tony Beats' son tried to show that he can be great and get out from under his dad's shadow. Kevin also hoped that sloughing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, would help him make his goal of 1,000 ounces for the season. Things were even worse for Parker. Foreman Mitch Blaschke said that when they saw the sluicing at the long cut after 19 weeks, he knew the job was almost over. There was also worry that the rock sand wash business would have to close down and have nothing to do for a whole year. Parker had to look for new land quickly, because he only had a few weeks left to mine for gold and reach his new goal of 8,000 ounces. In the end, Parker found some tailings from the 1980s and 1990s that gave him hope. He brought Tyson Lee with him to find out more about what was going on, because he was interested. Due to the results, Parker was able to get a test weigh-in at his home base. Meanwhile, Dahman Brown was wrapping up the pay at the purchased Sulphur Creek claim. Wash Plant Bob was nearly finished for the season because he had no thawed pay. Parker said that the test results didn't give him enough motivation to go after the location he had in mind, but he still made sure that everyone in the group met for the weekly weigh-in. Big Red made 111 ounces at the bridge cut, and after a while, Roxanne at the long cut gave them an additional 155.90 ounces. The three wash plants combined produced about 449 ounces, which is worth more than $1,000. Parker broke 5,000 ounces for the season, and it was going to be difficult to gain those 3 extra ounces. Kevin Beats also had a difficult time. His business was running out of surplus pay, and things got worse when his 480 backhoe needed to be fixed. It was a bad sign when someone on the team smelled something burning and saw smoke coming from their only excavator. Despite this, Parker Schnabel fought and did his best to ensure he never lost. Does this video make you like Parker Schnabel even more? Do you think he was being overly strict when he said that none of his children could perform the same work? Did his remarks have any effect on the show's ratings? Please feel free to comment below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this film, kindly like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.